Father fish, father fish. One place to go to if you have Vic. Your fish may itch or even flash. So Father Fish is your one-stop cap. Cap it all with an inch of sand. Cap it all with an inch of sand. Raise the temperature with a helping hand. And add some garlic on top of that sand. The itch will go, your plants will grow, and all of your fish will have a happy home. Father Fish, so Father Fish, your one-stop wonder if you keep fish. Starring Sir Father Fish and all his followers on the Father Fish channel. Over to you, Sir Father Fish.
Good
Hey,
morning.
Jerry.
How are you?
Good morning. How are you?
Good morning. Good morning. Morning, everyone.
Hello, everybody.
Yeah, we're good. Just checking our sound. I think we're pretty much in sync here. So good, good, good.
Yeah. Let's see.
Oh, new system's working at
Get
least.
more people. All right.
All right. So,
Top
yeah.
chat. Live chat.
Oh yeah. Yep. Because that was a thing yesterday. You were in a top chat for a little bit, which I get. I've done that myself.
Hello, Holly Gibbs. How are you? Willie Beck.
Yeah.
Fishing. Raven Thomas. Science Scal. Chevy. Hey, Chevy. Chad Rednauer. T-Bone. TJ. John Larson. Karuna Karen. Naresh. Lee Wilcox, Jason Sear, I'm repeating myself, Daniel Gonzalez, Roman Chirac, I'm repeating myself.
That's okay.
Hello, everyone.
Then we just had a few new ones come in on the bottom. We Stephanie's here, the fish box, Nate
Yeah, is
Hendrickson.
Nate Hendrickson. Hi, Nate.
Yeah.
Uh,
And
Dwayne Sheen. Hello,
yeah.
Dwayne from England. Community Aquatics. Hello, hello. Where are you located, Community Aquatics? I've seen you up here before, I think. T.
And
McNeil. Good morning to you.
Joe.
Stephanie. Hi, Stephanie. Joe Merchant. Sorry if I'm missing anyone. I'm
Oh
not being
yeah.
systematic about this.
No, I'm
Orange,
not either. I'm just looking.
pretty close to me you are.
Oh.
Ashu Chola. Me,
Orange
yes.
City, Father Fish. Orange City, Florida.
City, Florida,
Me,
right. Hello,
Florida.
Ashu.
I'll
Nice
shoot.
to see you. Last box Fox. The fish box. Goodness sakes. I wanted to tell you all how much we love you, and
Yeah.
what happened yesterday on yesterday's stream. We came within a hair's breadth of hitting 1,000 views. It was what 9:26 as
It
of
was.
this morning.
Yeah.
9:26. Really amazing. It was like
Really.
8:50, I think, by the end of the stream. It was just amazing. So
Yeah.
thank you all so very much for your faithfulness and your support. Let's see, housekeeping. We've made a decision about membership. We're going to do a special benefit for members only. They will have full and exclusive access to a body of videos from our library. We're gradually picking them out. There'll be some really interesting ones. Um, and we'll probably set a number on it. Don't know what that'll be yet, but but there will be a group of videos that will be available in our library exclusively for members to view. So you might keep an eye on that. And there'll be videos that will be of particular significance to hobbyists. So they're not going to be the um, the lowest rated videos. There'll be some really good ones.
Yeah.
We do have a lot of members, and we're just so excited and proud about that.
You do.
Happy to have you all as members, and we want to promote more of that. On the matter of Discord, there are some people who are having trouble getting on Discord, and as near as I can tell, the reason is you have to download it. It is a piece of software that you have to have on your computer before you can use it. It's not like YouTube where you just go on and sign up. You've got to download Discord. So if you're having trouble getting on and have not downloaded, then do so, and that should resolve the issue for you. I think that's my recent understanding.
Well, it's a good place to start.
The Midnight Lobster. Hello, hello.
Yes. Would you like to start with a question, or are you still?
Oh, absolutely. Let's
Okay.
jump right into it.
Let's jump right in. Well, Jason's here has a question. He says, Father Fish, any tips on power outage?
That's always an important thing to be prepared for.
Yes.
And you need to be prepared for it, at least in your head, prepared for it so that you know what to do and don't get into an absolute panic and start making mistakes. So the first thing to do is to decide whether your fish room is the only thing in the house that you need to be concerned about if there is a power outage. Refrigeration, freezer, any kind of equipment that needs to not be turned off. If you have things in your house running on electricity that you are absolutely dependent upon, then you might want to consider a generator. And try to, when you buy one, try to determine what your wattage use is so that you can duplicate it. Is it wattage or voltage? I don't know.
Voltage.
I'm not an electrician. Voltage use. Try to determine what your voltage use is so that you can get one big enough to carry what you want it to carry. That would be step one. Step two, and we'll go to your fish room, is to determine what has to run and what does not have to run.
Yes.
In my fish room currently, there is only one tank that is critical for water movement, and that's the tank with all the big cichlids in it. If that tank were to go out, as has happened without losing electricity, simply it's not because the power goes off, it's because somehow the air stone or the filter gets jammed, and the pump cuts off, and there's no water flow, and fish start struggling and may start dying, and that's happened in that tank. The easy solution for that is to start pulling water out and setting up vats, buckets, tubs, whatever you've got you can put water in, and separate out fish. Put a smaller number of fish in each of those containers, such that the natural oxygen CO2 exchange will be sufficient to keep them alive. That works, and it works fine. You can buy battery operated air pumps that last 6 to 8 hours or so, and they'll keep the water moving. Anything that'll keep the water moving your hand. Keep the water moving with your hand. Now, the other issue is if this happens in the winter and you wind up with a cold house and you have a way to heat water, you can put hot water in your tank if you're willing to stay up all day and all night doing it. I had a friend, Jeff Campbell. I've mentioned him before. Jeff had a power outage and went up there one morning to his classroom where he had all his fish. He had a power outage at the school. He had a wood burning stove in his classroom. Give you an idea of what this school was like and what this classroom was like.
I wouldn't fly
He
now.
he was boiling water and using the boiling water to maintain the temperature in his fish tanks to keep it from getting too cold. And he had warus, which, for example, is a fish that really doesn't like to get cold. And he saved everything. He was up all night doing that. So there are things you can do. But basically what you need to do is try to plan ahead. If you've got a tank that's overstocked, try to figure out what you can do with some of the fish, perhaps as many as half of them, to move them into auxiliary containers with the same water. Lowering the water level does not reduce the oxygen content, not substantially, because that's really a function of oxygen exchange more than it is water volume. So you can reduce the water volume, reduce the amount of fish, and you'll be able to do more better. So there's just a couple of things. Keeping the water moving is really what's critical. Keeping the temperature up, if that is needful, is the other consideration. So, but the key is to plan ahead so that if something does happen, you've got a plan that you have thought through and you know what to do about it. That's a whole lot better than panicking.
Yes. A father fish mug.
A father fish mug. You may get your very own father
Right.
fish mug on PayPal. Simply deposit $25 into PayPal under the name fatherfish at fatherfish.net. And you will receive, if you include your address, your very own fatherfish mug, upper sticker, algae scraper, and whatever other goodies we've got.
Sounds great. Okay, so Stephen Cooper has an interesting question. I live in Michigan, and it is wintertime here. If I go to a local pond and scoop out some sand and place it in my tank, will the bacteria still be alive, going from a much lower temp to a higher temp?
Yes, it will, and it'll probably do just fine. What you might do is acclimate it a bit. Bring it into the house, let it sit in the house for maybe a day, a few hours, 4 or 5 hours at least, enough to get the temperature up. It's not going to kill anything that's in there. The only issue is if you're collecting surface in order to get surface animals, in order to get surface bacteria, you might want to put that in a tray or in something else with something shallow with a large surface space rather than leave it in a bucket. You can suffocate it. Now, if you're digging deep into the mud, by all means, leave it in the bucket. Just give it a few hours to get the temperature up to your house temperature, and then go ahead and use it as normal. Put it in the tank. But yes, it will not. Bringing it in, doing a 1-day conversion is not going to kill any of the bacteria.
Okay.
It'll keep everything going.
He asked another little question below and said, would a piece of driftwood be a better choice, or a piece of wood be a better choice than the sand?
I would do both. I really would do both. Um, it's not an either or. Both are good. If you can do both, why not do both?
Sure. So, okay.
Roger Salmon. Hello, Roger Salmon. Master Black. Midnight Lobster. Emily Stevens. I just heard circus animals instead of surface animals. Well, I'll tell you what, Emily. In a few short months, we're going to be living with the circus animals, and you'll have a chance to share in all of that. For those of you who don't know, we're going to be shutting down Father Fish Aquarium in the next few months, and we're going to be going to Maryland. That's the plan, at least. This won't be nailed down until March. But the plan is to go to Maryland and to begin working with my very dear friends, Rick and Marianne Hahn, who own the Catoctin Mountain Zoological Park. You might want to look that up. It is a magnificent zoo that's located in the same federal park as Camp David, President's Retreat. Wonderful, wonderful zoo. We're going to be located there. We're going to be doing demonstration aquariums. We'll be building out some really exciting displays. Just very much looking forward to it. Don't know what, if anything, I will continue to be able to do at retail. We'll certainly do some of the same merch we're doing now. Not that we're doing much, but we may be able to do more because I think we will have some help up there with merchandising. In addition to which, we'll be able to merchandise some of the really wonderful products that are in the gift shop at the zoo. Some really neat stuff there too. So looking forward to that, and looking forward to, kind of taking the next step, I guess, with their channel. Looking forward to expanding the channel and reaching more people with more kinds of animals. We will remain faithful to our fishy friends and to our hobby. And that'll be a big part of what we're going to be doing there. But we will be in a venue that'll allow us to do a great deal more. So look forward to that. It'll be coming soon. Jason Sear, what's he saying? Oh, he's saying, wondering about adding hot water. He's thinking about a 12-volt converter. Yeah, that's a good idea. An inverter. Well, yes, an inverter. If you got car batteries, you can use an inverter on it and keep your batteries, keep your little air pumps or whatever going. A big enough inverter running off a couple of batteries can solve the problem too, and maybe less expensive depending on your needs than trying to do a generator. It's a matter of having charged batteries or running your automobile enough to charge some batteries if you have a problem. There are lots of fixes. Just the key is to plan ahead. Have a plan so that you know what to do. And hopefully it'll never happen. But you never know. Wondering about adding hot water. If you have chloramines, you want to treat the water before. If you had free chlorine, boiling it will release the chlorine. It won't be in the water anymore. So you don't need to worry so much about that. And you may as well boil it, not just make it warm. Make it hot. And then pour it in slowly and not a great deal. You don't want to cook your fish. You just want to keep the temperature.
Right.
So Do it with your hand in the water so that you know what the temperature is in the tank. Put a thermometer in there and keep an eye on it. Don't go crazy with this, but it is a way to do it if you're careful.
Okay.
Are there some things you recommend to look out for or not collect and put? Was that yours? Is that the one you
Well,
found, Joey?
that's the one I was going to read you, but I'm still trying to make sense of the question myself. That's why I'm
Yeah, he's worried of it. Are you saying are there things I would recommend that you not put in an
collect.
aquarium,
Right.
as well as things
That
that are good to put in an aquarium?
put in the
So
aquarium.
it's really a
It took
double
me a
question.
second.
Yeah, excellent question. Really good
Yeah.
question, Joe. Um, well, I want to do a video. Uh, the 10 best things for your aquarium that you can find in the woods,
Hmm. That's a good one.
rather than at the dollar store. I I haven't done that yet, but I want to do it.
That would be
Obviously,
good.
nice, interesting rocks, pieces of driftwood, old stuff that's hard. You want driftwood to be old and hard. If you have something really clever and interesting that's kind of crumbly, you can put that in your tank, but it will exacerbate its crumbliness. In other words, it'll continue to deteriorate and fall apart. So you need to decide whether that is in fact something you want in there, and it may well be. A piece of driftwood that's kind of small can be a wonderful thing to put in your fish tank simply because it does crumble and fall apart and and become part of the biological system. Um, you'll find plants that you can put. Now, here's an idea with plants. Moss, for example, you can collect moss and put it in your tank, but it will not live underwater indefinitely. It will live in your water for about a week, and after about a week, it will need to breathe. It can only hold its breath for so long, and it's not so much that it's holding its breath as it is that it's a bog plant that is able to survive in water for short periods of time, like during runoffs, um, in the spring when the creek floods and it's underwater for maybe a week or 2 weeks. Um, it needs to be able to breathe fresh air once in a while. So you can take it out, leave it out for a few days, and put it back in. If you want to go through the trouble of doing that, you can do it. A better way is to set up a terrarium kind of environment. So lower your water level and create a terrace at the top, at the surface of your tank, so that you can put plants like mosses and other boggy plants that like to have their feet wet, but not their hair. Their hair needs to be dry more or less, and their feet need to be wet. That's called a bog plant, where its leaves need to be out of water, but its roots can be in the water. You can set up your tank so that you've got the roots in a pot, perhaps, in the tank, and the leaves and stem are coming up out of the tank, and they'll do just fine. So that's another kind of thing you can find on your walk through the woods. Obviously, driftwood. If there's a little creek or stream and you find a piece of wood in it that has obviously been in there for a very long time, it's almost always safe to take that. Things that are interesting and growing in a creek, little plants growing in the creek, curiosities that you may find. All of those things. If you have a question about it, put it in a bucket or a separate container of water for a week or two and see what happens. Make sure it's going to be okay. And then you can put it in your tank. So, if you have a question, better be safe than sorry, I guess. What you don't want to do is dig up a root system and bring it home and put it in the tank. That will fail the tank. The sap will fail the tank. You don't want to do that. Other than that, go for it and enjoy. And I will try to get that video made one of these days. I think it'd be great fun. What else you got there? Oh, avoid. What to avoid? The other half of Joe's question was what to avoid. Well, avoid anything that's going to deteriorate badly. Anything that's gonna like a plant that might be dead or might rot. Obviously, you don't want to put dead fish in there. Anything that will deteriorate, anything that may contain toxins, which could include certain kinds of plants. You don't want to indiscriminately throw plants in there, particularly if they're terrestrial. Now, if they're aquatic plants, they're not going to be toxic. You can go for it. Just go ahead and do it. And you always, when you do this kind of thing, you always take the risk of getting something that's going to be dominant, that'll be very aggressive, whether it's a plant or an animal. Or that may be just the opposite. It may be so delicate and so sensitive that it can't tolerate the change. Both happen, both are true. So both are considerations. But you only learn about that by trying it. Okay. That'll do. I need coffee.
You're going to get a coffee. Okay. So T-Bone says that he took that his tank is a lot more clear since he took out the driftwood and did a 50% water change. And he says, I'm going to soak the driftwood for a few more months.
Good. Is the tank turning yellow again?
Well, he says it's more clear. So can you just clarify that one thing, T-Bone? Make sure it's not still turning yellow? But it sounds like you're on the right track, that things are starting to go well.
Abdulaziz Quazaz.
I love him.
Abdulaziz Quazaz. Abdulaziz Quazaz has earned himself, has turned blue, earned himself a wrench. Excellent, excellent question.
I was going to say, and then has the question. Yeah.
Say what?
Yes, and then it has that wonderful question.
All right, so this is good. Anyone know how I can maintain good water flow and circulation for plants to get nutrients if I have a bed with long fins which hates flow? Excellent. Excuse me while I scratch my back. All right.
Well, at least you're not hitting people. I thought, like yesterday, I thought you were going to start whacking people with it.
Yeah, really. Okay, two things I want to say about this. First of all, there are two kinds of plants that we're typically concerned with. The one kind of plant draws nutrients from the water column. These are plants that are typically kept with bettas. Things like Java fern, Java moss, rickia, duckweed. Any plant that has a rhizome that does not send roots down into the dirt or into the substrate. Those require nutrients in the water. Now, that doesn't mean you need to put nutrients in the water beyond feeding the fish. What it does mean is that those plants will get the nutrients they need from the water column. Now, before I answer your question, the other kind of plant is a plant that has roots that go down into the substrate and they derive most of their nutritional needs from the substrate. So, depending on the kind of plant you have, is going to determine how the tank is set up. If you have a substrate that contains nutrients, then obviously you do not need water flow for the roots in that substrate to be able to get those nutrients. So that's a non-issue. I would recommend that you do a thin layer of soil capped with a thicker level of sand. And it can be half an inch of soil and an inch to an inch and a half of sand in a small betta container. As to the plants living in the water column, they do not need water flow in order to be able to access nutrients. And here's why. Water naturally flows. It does it without you even really particularly being able to see it. Here's an experiment. If you have food coloring, put a drop of food coloring in your betta bowl. Not for the purpose of coloring the water, but for the purpose of demonstrating the natural water flow that's going on in your tank. What you will notice in about a day is that that drop of water, that drop of color will have completely disappeared. It will have gone throughout the water column. You're not going to see it rushing around. Rather, it'll be very slow, very slow. So slow you may get bored watching it, but it is moving nevertheless. Water naturally flows, even still water, and it flows by virtue of a number of things, one of which is CO2. CO2 rises to the surface. Oxygen, on the other hand, descends down into the water. So as CO2 is rising, O2 is dissolving, you get a current based on that. There are little animals, including bacteria, that are living in the water. They have little cilia, they're not feet exactly, they're more like 1,000 tiny fins. They're like little tiny hairs, and they wiggle them in order to create mobility for themselves. Paramecium is a good example. If any of you have watched Imre's video, he has a conical and inverted cone tank with an amazing picture, video of a very dense paramecium culture. And he's got a macro lens or a micro lens on it that allows you to see the individual paramecium, and you can see them moving in the water. They're doing that by virtue of their cilia. So a remarkable video. Never seen one as good as that. By the way, if anybody has any way of being able to catch up with Imre, he was here Monday. He's not been back, and I'm upset about that because I really want to talk to him. I really, really do. He has one of the most magnificent tanks I have ever seen in my life. You need to go on his website. Please go on his website and sign up. He's only got a few videos, but every one of them are well worth watching. He is a technical genius, not just in terms of what he's done with his aquariums, but his technical skills as a videographer. It's just really amazing. If somebody could post his link, please. I
can find it.
If we can, it's
Yeah,
Imre.
Find
You
it.
got it.
I can't do it from this one, and I'm not sure I can.
Chevy, see if you can find that. Imre von, what is it?
Balgooey. Imre
Balgooey.
Balgooey.
Imre von Balgooy, Gooy, Balgooy. Post this link, please, and please, everyone, go to his channel and sign up on his channel.
If
He's got
Chevy can't find it,
21. Yeah, go ahead.
if Chevy can't find it, I'll try to go off and find it, but I'll read you a question. I won't be able to stay in that chat. I can try to go find it.
He's got 21 subscribers, for God's sake.
Well, he might have more now because you've been shouting him out all week. He might have more.
So. I hope so.
Yeah.
You know, any tips for keeping glass clean beyond regular wiping? Yeah. There is a glass clean product. It's a wax. That it's a very, very, very thin wax, and I don't have it. When Thomas comes in, I'll have him grab it and bring it up so we can show you. We've been using that both on the exterior of our tanks as well as the interior of our atrium, and it works really quite well.
So, just two things. T-Bone says his tank is not turning yellow, so I think we're on the right track with that. And could I read a statement from Chris Stubbings? He said he wanted to thank you guys on great advice you gave me on my micro tropical fish room on the substrate. Heating the room, not the tanks and the fish. I uploaded the video. More fish to come. So that's awesome. Nice. And he's doing well with his fish room, and that's awesome. And go check Chris Stubbings out and watch his videos. Really try to. It's I realize there's only so many hours in a day, but if we can all support each other as much as possible, that's what makes this a great community. Okay, so let's get you on the next question, and then I'm going to go try to find Emery's link. So I won't be able to help you. So abolish, you read that. Lee, let's find you a question that you can go on. Good morning, Liberty Bell Cichlids. Good morning. Good morning, Tam. Abolished. One Dirty Platy. I don't really see a question right this second, do you?
No.
Because I was going to try to get you busy while I to find that link.
That's okay.
You'll find something while I find the link. Oh, wait a minute. Roland Ricky says, I was so sad when I lost my red root floaters. On the bright side, I took comfort in seeing my hydrophilia.
Well, Harry Woodsman, you're just going to have to join the crowd. That's all. We just turned it.
Pass out wrenches, Father Fish. You keep scrolling up and down. There's a few people you could pass out wrenches to. I'm going to go find this link.
Roland Ricky, excuse me, Roland Ricky, sad when he lost his red roof floaters. Saw his Hygrophila pinnatifida send out new stems and growing like crazy. Red roof floaters require a lot of light. I don't know anybody who's doing them effectively in an aquarium. It's the kind of thing you grow in a tub outdoors where it can get natural sunlight. Yeah, Abolish is saying the same thing. It's not that it's not calm enough. It's that it's impossible to get enough light to get the red roof floaters going. Roman Chirac wants to come up this Saturday evening. That would be wonderful.
Yeah,
Roman,
absolutely.
Delighted to have you. Absolutely. Look forward to it.
That would be great because you've been wanting him to come up for a while.
Yeah. Have you ever fed dried fly larvae to fish? Yeah. I try to reconstitute any of the freeze-dried stuff. And if it's dry fly larvae, which is maggots that have died on the sidewalk, you can feed those too. It's all good. It's all good.
So,
I tell you what, here we go. Dry fly larvae,
yeah.
otherwise known as maggots, are a very common nutritional supplement for farmers who have ponds. And some of you, I have no doubt, know exactly what I'm referring to. For those of you who don't, I will describe in gory detail what I'm talking about.
Okay, this will keep you busy for a little while. Go ahead.
It requires, first of all, a platform, a slatted platform, sitting above the water level at the far, far end of the pond. And hopefully it's a large enough pond to have a far, far end. It also requires fish in the pond. And the process then, those of you who are adequately imaginative, have already figured this out, haven't you? One of the banes, that's BANE, one of the banes, it's the opposite of a blessing. There are blessings and there are banes. Blessings we know about, banes we do too. They are utterly undesirable. One of the utterly undesirables of farming, or for that matter, living in the wild, is the occasional carcass, the occasional deceased animal. Before it begins its process of deterioration, because later is too noxious to even go near it, before that begins, simply place the carcass on the raised platform at the far, far end of the pond and let nature take its course. Flies will descend in hordes on the carcass. Fly larvae will begin to consume the carcass. As the larvae mature, they will drop off of the carcass into the water. They literally fall off, ostensibly onto the ground. Aha, except in this case, they're falling in the water. And guess what is lurking in the water below the platform? All those many fish living in the pond. And as more and more of the worm larvae fall into the water, the fish get fat and happy and will spawn, because a fish that is full of protein develops eggs and sperm, and they want to spawn. So it creates very healthy fish and spawning fish. It will produce a whole new crop of fish growing in your pond. So a very simple and a very effective way to be able to feed your fish, and that process will last a week or better, a week to 2 weeks. There will be continuing food falling into the pond. Now, I think I've said enough about that. Have you found it?
And I just finally got that link. What I had to go through. Joe asked me for another link today.
But you
And then
got
they're
it.
gonna come back. They're gonna come back and tell me it doesn't work.
Put it up. Oh, there it is. Yeah, see it.
Man, that was hard to find. You know how I found it? I couldn't find him. He had left a comment on one of my videos. I remembered that.
I did
I
find
went
it though.
all over the place, but I got it.
Zimmerman, YouTube user Zimmerman, Zimeren.
Yeah, I feel like I just
Yes, yeah, that's it. He's up to
did it work.
32,
Yeah.
so he's
I
picked up.
subscribed while I was there, of course.
It is amazing. Now
Okay.
he's been on YouTube for nearly 10 years, and I don't know what else he was doing.
Oh,
He's
and,
got 3, 6, 9, 12, 15, 18 videos going back 2 years. The
oh, poor
oldest
Jenny.
one, the oldest one is the one I mentioned, the inverted cone, which shows the paramecium. But you will see this absolutely astounding videography and amazing videos. So please do join in, look at them all, make sure you subscribe. This is a very, very worthy creator, someone who is well worth paying attention to. We need to get him doing he has one video um, where he is planting Alternathera Renicky, where he's showing how to plant that
Yeah.
particular cover plant.
Unfortunately,
Amazing.
Lori and Chevy had already dropped the link. Of course, I couldn't tell that because I was over in other screens looking. So anyway, you've got that link up there a bunch of times because the really good mods were already on it.
Wonderful. Okay, so that's great. Do please go to his
Oh, but
channel.
Chevy did admit it took a long time to find it. Okay, I don't feel quite so bad. It was hard to find. Anyway, okay.
All right, wonderful. So Imre, and tell him we sent you, please. Do a
Yeah.
comment in one of his videos and tell him Father Fish wants to talk to you because he loves what you're doing. So
Well, I'm definitely going to go watch some videos when I get a minute.
you'll love it. It's just really exciting stuff. All right.
All right.
Let's
so
see. Johan is saying, I
Yes.
find my plants struggle a little with growing in sand. Yeah, if it's just sand, it's going to take a while. That's why we put dirt in the sand. Now, this is kind of critical. I haven't had anyone have a problem with this yet, but part of my learning process years ago, when I started doing dirted sand cap substrates, I would put the plants very deep into the substrate in a brand new substrate, and the roots would rot, and they would turn black. It would happen consistently. And what I finally realized is that I had to put the roots more gently into the sand, about halfway down into the sand, so it did not get in that raw dirt that was in the bottom. And here's the reason why, and there's a word you need to learn. Now, I don't know that I'm using the word technically appropriately, but I'm using it to describe a certain condition. And as such, I believe it is an appropriate use of the word. And the word is chelation. Chelation. I use it to describe the chemical process that occurs in the anaerobic environment down below the sand, where all of these chemicals and biologicals have been jammed together and are cooking off. They're reacting to each other. In the process of doing that, they break down, they form new compounds, they become ultimately stable. That reaction gets slower and slower because they break down more, they develop um, compounds that are not in conflict with each other, that are not reacting to each other. And so they become, if I can use the word, chelated. As such, they develop into uh, nutrients, minerals, and compounds that can be taken up by the root systems. So what you've literally done is created a chemical factory that takes a matter of a couple of months. That's why you see bubbles bubbling up. It's part of the action of these chemicals. Now, these bubbles are never toxic. They are never a problem. You do not need to be concerned about them. It is important, however, as you plant that tank, that you do not plant it down into that witch's brew you've got going down in there, because it'll burn the roots off. Plant them halfway down. They will be able to go a little further down, and they'll begin to find nutrients, because the nutrients will become available. They'll become accessible, and they'll be able to pull them out and use them. And they will, and from day one, those plants will find nutrients and be able to grow. After a period of time, and not a long time, a matter of just a month or two. Thank you, T-Bone, for your uh, super sticker from $5 Australian. Um, After a while, that'll chelate and it'll become accessible to the plants. There are other kinds of chemicals like the oxides, the iron oxides, that'll take substantially longer. They don't burn off, they just deteriorate. Um, and as such, they may take upwards of a year. But that means a year down the line, there will be iron that'll be accessible to your plants, a basic element for plant growth. So this is a long-term kind of process. Um, it's one you should not have trouble with in the beginning if you do two important things. Make sure you have an absolute minimum of 2 inches of sand on the top of that dirt. And the dirt need not be more than an inch. More than that, and you could cook off and will need more sand, 3 to 4 inches, simply because it'll become much too active. And an inch of dirt, 2 inches of sand. Push the roots halfway down into the sand. The nutrients will begin to come up into the sand. They'll work their way up, and the roots will find them. That's what their job is, to find nutrition. They're good at it, better than you are even. They'll find it and they'll grow. So, what else you got there?
Well, I'm looking, and I just scrolled back, and I'm not seeing, unless I'm missing something.
Abolished ink at 9:53. I'm curious if the soils with slow release synthetics like Miracle Grow that are labeled organic would slow down the process we're looking for. No, I don't think so. I think if anything, they add to the process. I do use, I know doesn't affect bacteria much, but fungi shut down. We'll get to that in a minute. That's interesting. Abolished. I use Osmocote in my mix. It's slow release, 6 months. So I haven't noticed. You don't really, let me put it this way. You don't really notice much of anything, truthfully. What you do notice is that after a period of time, 6 months or so, the entire sand up to virtually the surface becomes blackened as nutrients are precipitating into it and other nutrients are rising in it. And after a year or two, you can't tell the difference between the dirt and the sand. But by then it's down in there and it's not uh, dissolving into the water column, at least not substantially. The one thing I have noticed after a period of time is that the sand can become compacted if you're feeding very heavily and have a great deal of mold being produced. As it precipitates into the sand, it can fill that sand bed and you wind up with mold on the surface. If that happens, you simply add another half inch to an inch of sand, and that'll take care of it. And you'll find it may be enough then for it to really be cooking off, for it to be flowing through the system. I've had to do that in a couple of big tanks. I resolved the issue permanently, such that I wound up with no more mold at all, long term. What was the other one Abolish was asking? Some other curious comment. Doesn't affect bacteria, but fungi shut down.
Right.
Okay.
All right. So you're going to touch on that for a minute?
Yeah, fungi. I want to be careful here because I don't always know what I'm talking about, and I try not to say anything if I don't. But here's the thing. Fungus. Fungus grows on dead material. It doesn't grow on live material. It grows on organic dead material, like tree stumps that are dead. Like it'll grow on fish. You'll see fungus growing on fish, and that's growing on dead bacteria. So in the soil, fungus will grow where there's a lot of dead bacteria. We don't see it so much in water. There is mycelium growing in water, which is essentially a fungus root system growing in the substrate. We rarely, if ever, see it, but that's what it's feeding on. So, as our system becomes healthier, it's not bacteria that die. It's bacteria that kill living matter, or that eat up dead tissue, that produce a product that the fungus can eat. I'm kind of in murky water here, but maybe somebody has a better understanding of the biology of this. I've never seen a mushroom growing in a fish tank. I'll put it that way. Good morning. How are you?
Well,
Can you bring in that glass cleaner? Somebody asked about it. The one that has wax that we're using, so I can show it. All right. What else we got?
Okay. Maple Street Aquatics had a question. Father Fish, I normally use basic organic soil under my substrate. If I were to add a few nutrients to help with plant growth, what few nutrients would you recommend to start out with?
As far as I understand, it's similar to kids' like bubble blowing solution
Huh.
with wax.
Well, gee. I use a bunch of different things. I don't know, recommend. What would I recommend? Iron oxide, for sure. I would recommend iron oxide. Osmocote's going to give you long-term release. And if you can get it down under the sand, down deep in the substrate, it's not going to be affecting the water column.
We need the vacuum up here anymore.
Pardon?
We need the vacuum up here anymore.
Yeah, I want to do this floor.
All right, I'll leave.
What else? I'm drawing a blank here, and I'm not really sure why. I think I'm distracted. Is my problem.
Well, do you want to come back to that question
Yeah,
in a
let's
minute?
move on. I'll come back
Okay.
to it. Yeah.
We'll try to come back to that question. So Lucky 38 says, Father Fish, I set up my 75-gallon with dirt and the sand calf after watching your videos. My nitrate levels are 0 ppm in my 75. Do you ever dose potassium nitrate to ward off algae growth?
No. And the reason I don't is because it also affects plants. Algae is a plant. I don't do anything that's going to reduce or substantially impact negatively the growth of any kind of plant, including algae. Here's the thing about algae. If you have algae growth in your tank, then you do not have sufficient higher order plants in your tank. It's really that simple. Algae absorbs nutrients out of the water column less successfully than higher order plants do. So, stem plants, rooted plants, plants that derive nutrients directly from the water column, they will all starve out algae, provided there are enough of them to meet the condition of dissolved nutrients in the water. So there are two issues. One is to have enough plants, higher order plants, to be able to compete with the algae. The other is to have some control over the nutrients that are in the water. It is rarely, if ever, necessary to add liquid nutrients to an aquarium. If you have fish in that tank, you absolutely do not need to add nutrients. It may spur plant growth, but it will create an imbalance in which those plants will then have a greater need for nutrients than the tank is naturally able to provide. And so you put yourself on a roller coaster where you have to add more and more and more nutrients in order to be able to maintain the plants. That system will eventually crash and burn. It's not sustainable. Unless you're doing this for the purpose of creating a photographic record of a high growth tank such that you would want to enter it into one contest or another, be very cautious about adding liquid fertilizers to your tank. It rarely, for the average aquarist, it is never a good idea. For the skilled aquarist who knows exactly what they're doing, it is done at all times with extreme caution. Don't start dumping a tablespoon of fertilizer into your tank every month unless you want everything to be dead in 3 months, because that's what you're going to get. I don't know how I got off on track with that. Off track with that, but there you go.
Hey, that's what you do. Father Fish, could we possibly take a break?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, because the dogs somehow unplugged my power cord, and I want to take care of that, and then get a coffee if I could. And I can't reach my power cord, so I have to get up and go to the other side.
Okie dokie. We're going to show Imre's crayfish here.
Oh, perfect.
Notice they're not copulating. The male is simply releasing sperm that are fertilizing the eggs in the water column. Thank you, Johan. 1 inch of sand, then squeeze out some suction filters on that, poke and roll, cap it with 1 inch of sand. That'll work. That'll work. Absolutely. Absolutely. SEK. What's SEK? So, what is SEK? It's not South Korea. Johan. Johan is from Denmark, Copenhagen, somewhere up there. Dustin, Aquatic Made Easy. Falconry says it should be X-rated for crayfish nudity. Not only that.
Oh, did you see Johan?
Yes, I got it. Thank you.
Okay, sorry, I just got back. Are we in sync, or do I need to drop down?
We're good,
Okay. Thank you.
I think. Say hello
Hello.
when I say Joey. Joey.
Hello, or whatever. Yeah, I think it's right because you're matching your sound.
We have a gap. Joey.
Do it again. Sorry.
Joey.
Hi.
It's about 2 seconds. Don't worry about it.
Okay. There, I can drop down if I have to.
Yeah, Father Fish.
Okay. And this is part of the live.
What?
He is actually running a store at the same time.
Oh. If I can take them, sure. Yeah, that's fine. Sure. Happy to do that. You bet. Okay.
You need to get coffee, Rocco. Definitely need to get your coffee.
Herb diversity. Monster fish now.
Yes, the glasses came off. Yes, they did. Oh, well, we're down at the bottom. There's nothing there. Do you want me to scroll back and try to find something? Or do you want to just keep rolling?
Midnight lobster. What is he talking about? Father Fish turns into Father Fist.
I don't know. But I was just saying to them, this is part of the live stream. You're actually running a store at the same time. So, but I don't know what. Did we miss something from Midnight Lobster?
I
Did I
don't
miss
know.
that?
I think a typo. I think it was just a typo.
I don't know. Anyway.
Swedish. Johan.
Yes. I don't know. All right, I'm just scrolling back while you're doing whatever you're doing.
Fishbox wanting us to look at videos and sub. Please do, by all means.
Okay, so Dave B says, I do have a thin layer of dirt under my blasting sand too, but before I use dirt, I would still get some gas buildup. I wouldn't call it severe though. Do you want to address the gas buildup in fish tanks?
Yeah, it's really not an issue.
Right.
It's not anything that's harmful. In fact, it's mostly nitrogen that's gassing off. Rarely is it any kind of toxic gas, and if it is, it dissipates into the air. It doesn't hang around and roll in the water and sit there and get absorbed by the water at all. It goes whoop, and it's gone. So not to worry.
Okay. So good. So I'm scrolling back, and if you want to keep up with what's current, if something comes in, I'll just scroll back a little bit.
Ram Kumar, check water pH of my deep substrate. Found it to be above 8. Is it okay to add flatties? Yes, absolutely. Yeah, not a problem. That's I wouldn't worry about it. By the way, glass cleaner we were talking about. This is one made by Kent. It's called acrylic glass cleaner polisher. It contains a thin coat of wax. Apparently the same material, Thomas says, as is used in the kids' big bubble blower liquid that keeps the bubbles from bursting for a long time.
So, Father Fish, do you have something, or can I? Should I go ahead?
Yes.
Okay. I'm just, there's a whole bunch of talk in here, and so rather than go, I'm just going to give you a general, and I think this will cover a lot for people. Can you just touch on the fact that the dirt, starting the dirted tank is a jump start to the tank but that tank can obviously exist without that have been going for a long time. Can you just explain how that whole system works a little bit? And I think that'll cover a lot of the discussion from starting the
So,
tank versus an existing tank that, because people are like, I have a deep substrate, my plants are doing well. And yes, if it's an older tank, yes. So if you could just cover that a little.
well, I think the easiest way to understand it, I guess, is that the dirted tank is simply jump starting a new tank. You can do exactly the same thing if you collect the muck from the bottom of an existing tank, put it in a new tank, cap it with sand, and move forward. You will accomplish essentially the exact same result and probably will be ahead of the game because you will have material that already is in solution, already is broken down, already is accessible to the root systems of plants, and already is capable of performing its anaerobic function of breaking down waste. So all we're really doing with the dirt and the cap is creating an environment which will build itself over a fairly short period of time, will build itself into a natural biological environment in your aquarium. Now, if you already have an aquarium with gravel in it that's a couple of inches deep and it's been set up for a year or more, you've already got the makings of it. All you need to do is not do the siphoning thing. Don't stir it up and clean it this last time. I know you've been doing that for a year. Don't do it again. Instead of doing that, let it go a little longer, maybe a month or 2 months, and then add sand to it. And you will be capping all of that dirt. You will be keeping it down in the substrate, controlling it, maintaining it underneath the layer of sand. And you do want to put about 2 inches of sand in there. So if you've got hardscape, as you put the sand in, you can put it in at a slower rate. You can put it in at half an inch at a time, maybe half inch a week, maybe half inch a month. And then if you need to raise up your hardscape a little bit, just give it a little lift. Same with plants. If they're getting buried, pull them up a little bit. Try to keep the crown at the surface. By doing that, you will be essentially creating a natural biological environment rather than one that requires constant maintenance in the form of cleaning it out all the time. When you clean an aquarium, when you go in there and you pump out and you pull out all of the waste material, what you're doing is you're cutting the tank down the middle. You're saying to the tank, I don't like you. I don't like what you do. I don't like that you create this because I think it's messy and dirty. I don't like that. So I'm going to remove that. And the tank is constantly then trying to restart itself, trying to get itself back in gear. It never is able to mature. It's always struggling. It's always in effect. It's always in shock because you're always taking away from it the very thing it needs to be able to stabilize. So rather than do that, add some sand. Since you're so unhappy with the dirt, add some sand to it. It does two things. Number one, it takes the dirt out of sight so you don't see it anymore. But number two, and more importantly, it allows that dirt to naturally deteriorate and to create the kind of nutritional foundation that your plants need in order to thrive. So you can start a tank by putting all this stuff in I put in at the beginning, and we'll give you a strong, rich tank going on for years. Or you can simply take the tank that you've been struggling with for a year or more, add sand to it, and you will achieve exactly the same thing. It'll take a little while for it to stabilize, but that'll happen before you know it. Does that help?
Perfect. And I'm just going to read a little statement from, just interesting things. But GRV Aquatics, and GRV is from Australia. He says, tomorrow I hope to be taking a friend and her 7 and 9-year-old kids collecting in our local estuary. It's so amazing to see what we can find running a fish tank net through the seagrass beds. That sounds like a
should be
fun.
great. That'll be wonderful. You'll love it. And the kids
Yeah.
will go crazy over it. There's
Yeah.
so many things in estuaries that you can keep in a fish tank. Make sure you bring some mud back and some plants. Now, if you're doing this right, do not put, you can put a sponge filter, do anything else. Do not do a hang on the back filter. It'll just it'll be too much of a problem.
Yeah.
A sponge filter would be fine and probably helpful. Then keep us posted. Do a little video of
Well,
of what
GRB is very, very experienced fish keeper, so and he has some wonderful.
that'll be great. Yeah, that'll be great fun.
It'll be perfect. So Ram Kumar is saying, good morning, Father Fish and everyone. Checked water pH in my deep substrate tank and found it above 8. Is it okay to add platies in it?
Yeah, we dealt with that a little while back.
Oh, you did?
Maybe,
Sorry.
yeah, I think you
That's
were
probably
going.
when I was preoccupied. Okay,
Probably.
so you took care of it. Okay.
Ashu Chala is saying, you told me to get fresh fish and shrimp for my bed. I have a butcher shop nearby. Can I buy a small piece every week? Better than that, just buy some and put it in the freezer. And then use a sharp knife and scrape.
Right.
So if it's a shrimp or a fish or whatever, just scrape small amounts off of it and feed that. That way you'll have to keep it fresh in your in your fridge and then throw it out because it goes bad. Just put it in the freezer and scrape it. That'll work just fine.
Mm-hmm. Actually, I think it's easier to shave it when it's frozen. I agree.
It is. Yeah. What is Eon talking about here?
Oh, I don't know.
Am I supposed to do weekly water changes? Do water changes as needed, Eon. And they're needed when, for example, when the nitrates get completely out of control. And that would be in excess of 200 nitrate. You should never have ammonia. You should never have nitrite. If you do, there's something wrong with the tank. You should have nitrates that will be controlled somewhat by plants. Don't worry about nitrates unless they get really very, very high, like up over 200 or so.
Is it all right if we add some plants to the rainbow fish tank and change the lights out for LEDs so we can actually get access to it? It's up to you.
I think I'm going to be breaking it down shortly.
Fine.
So, yeah.
All right.
That was the weekly water change thing.
Right, the weekly water change.
Yeah,
Um,
you know how I like sand. I like sand too. There is a very fine gravel that I like. Um, you also can get colored sand. One of the things when I get up in Maryland, if I ever do, I'm going to
yeah.
get over to New Jersey and get some green sand. I'm real curious about that and see how that
I think
works.
that would be interesting too.
It's
Um,
yeah,
I think Dustin's Aquatic was wondering if you could ship guppies to Cromwell, Ontario, to Canada.
I don't think I can.
Yeah,
Not with
I didn't.
not without a vet permit and some kind of a customs.
Yeah, and
Sir,
all the paperwork involved. Yeah, that would be a
yeah,
tough
you're
one.
better off driving across the border and bringing something back.
Yeah, yeah.
You're more likely to get away with that than trying to
Oh,
ship anything. Used to be able to. It was kind of a pre
did
nine
you?
11.
Did you? I wasn't sure that you could actually do it because they're funny. They're
Yeah,
funny
I
about
have shipped
plants and
fish
things.
all over the world without any customs intervention at all to
Oh,
speak
okay.
of. Now you have to have veterinary certification for each individual item you ship.
Right.
So,
Yeah, that's where the transshipper comes in, I guess. Handle all the paperwork. Um, well, yeah. Johan says, I think sand is the best looking substrate. Just saying. I mean, I like sand. I do. I like the way it looks.
I see
Um,
Mary's here. Hi, Mary.
oh, is she? I haven't even that far down yet. I'm still
Sorry,
looking at
thank
chat.
you.
Hi,
Yeah,
Mary.
yeah. She's saying
I haven't,
hello to. Boy, I
I
am
haven't,
way up here.
me too. Um, yes, actually, you can use shrimp also, fish and shrimp, yeah,
Yeah,
to feed them.
yeah.
Absolutely.
Shrimp is even better probably because it's a little easier to work with.
Yeah. Um, they'll be happy with anything like that.
Joshua likes the new biodiversity video. Um,
Oh, nice.
yeah,
Oh, I
this
see.
is a video that's available only to members of either Patreon or YouTube.
Yeah. All right. Scrolling. I thought I saw a question. A lot of hellos, which we're all really good at
Yeah,
saying hello.
James Handy doing decap shrimp. Yeah, it is so much nicer.
I know.
Uh,
You love that. I've
Cody,
never tried it. I still do the old school.
Cody is saying I'm getting nitrite spikes every
Yep, I
three
see that.
days or so, and it kills fish. Well, because you got something in there breaking down.
Yeah.
You may well be substantially overfeeding your fish. That would cause excess nitrates. You've got excess waste in your tank that's causing that. It's ammonia that's burning off, creating nitrates, and not enough nitrification bacteria to be able to burn that off and create nitrates. If you're exceeding your nitrates, if you have nitrates at all, or ammonia for that matter, you're probably overfeeding, or you've got some other substantial problem in the tank. Try no food at all for a month and see what happens. You might be amazed.
So yeah, James is just giving a nice little statement. He says, I collected sand and some aquatic plants from my local freshwater river and added them to my guppy corridor tank about 3 weeks ago, and my tank has never been better.
Yep,
Very
right.
nice.
Yeah,
Very nice.
thank you, Leon. Yep.
Just reinforcing all the things you say.
You bet. You bet. All right. I think we'll draw a line in the sand here.
Okay. I guess it's a good place to end because I think right at the moment I don't see another question. So yes, very good.
If I can find a
Oh,
piece
we
of
get
music.
it. We get it, Misfit. Everybody's busy. Lurking's great. We like lurking. Just give a thumbs up if you can. If everybody could give Father Fish a thumbs up, that would be wonderful on your way out.
You know what? I'm going to play another one of Imre's videos since I've got him up here.
Okay.
Oh, this, you'll like this. Take care, everybody. Love you all. Bye-bye, everybody. Lovely day. Make sure you go to this website and sign up for this guy as a subscriber.
I like the music.
Yeah, leave a note,
Great.
please. Yeah, he's a master videographer. Just amazing stuff. All right.
That's great.
Take care. Bye, all. See you in the morning.
Yeah.